Hi guys, my name is Bonnie. Welcome to my... What am I doing? My name's Bonnie. I'm a freelance fashion photographer. I put a call out on Instagram earlier tonight to do a little Q&A video for you guys. I've never done one of these before, so hopefully I don't mess it up too bad. But I just asked you guys to send me your questions if they're about fashion photography, shooting swimwear, social media, traveling, any of the above, and I'll do my best to answer them. So I'm just going to get straight into it. I'm not going to say everyone's names who asked me the questions because they're all like Instagram names and I'm going to get them wrong. So I'm just going to like put the Insta names here or somewhere so everyone can see who's asking it. So my first question, and probably a good place to start, is what made you pursue photography? So long story short, when I was deciding what I wanted to do at uni, I originally wanted to go into film and TV, so I applied to film school and didn't get in, unfortunately. It was really competitive back in the days, as I'm sure it still is now, but it didn't seem to go on creative credit, it went on your academics, so I did not get a high enough OP or UAI, wherever you're from, to get into that course. So I went and did a different creative degree instead, not in photography though. But yeah, after uni I sort of knew that I wanted to head into this direction. I found photography by chance sort of while I was traveling. One of the people we were staying with had a Canon 50D and I had a little play with it and pretty much fell in love with photography ever since. And when I got back from that trip, I bought myself a camera, started shooting, and taught myself everything I know. So it is very possible to be self-taught in this industry, as I'm sure everyone will know by now. So if it's something you want to do, you know, definitely just grab a camera, start shooting, teach yourself what you need to know, and go for it. Her second question is, what are your tips for posing models, especially for fashion shoots? This is a hard one because it really depends on the model that you're working with and the level that you'll have to pose them. Luckily these days I get to work with a lot of experienced models who don't really require much posing. So they have the knowledge and ability and experience to move themselves. So pretty much it's pretty, I like to be organic on shoots, so I might give them suggestions like, you know, I want you to use this chair, or sit up, you know, sit back on your knees, or you know, lying down or standing up against this wall. So I'll give them kind of suggestions of where to place themselves, but then I like the model to go naturally, like do naturally what they would want to do first. So instead of posing them fully, personally I find that's a bit awkward because you're going to probably put them in a position that's unnatural to them. So first I usually like to let them, you know, take their initiative and get into the position that they're most comfortable with, because that will look the most real. And then from there I will, you know, give them suggestions to tweak it if I need. Like I might tell them to put a knee up, or bend a certain way, or turn the chin, or, you know, depending on what we're shooting. But I like to keep it really organic. I don't like to pose the models I work with too much because I think it's unnatural. I know some photographers are very strong with posing, and that's okay as well. I'll have to kind of do a whole different video about posing. Maybe I'll do that one day, maybe not, I'm not sure. Let me know if you're interested in seeing more about it, because it's very in-depth. But long story short, I like to keep it really natural, let them do their thing first, and then tweak different positions if I need. I feel like that gets the most natural and organic result. Third part, how have you been able to secure so many jobs that allow you to travel? I don't really know. Things just happen. I mean, that's the magical world of social media. I think that the thing that really has allowed it to happen so much is social media, being on Instagram and working with brands and models who are also on these platforms. You know, the world's changing with how it markets and sells things, and it's really crazy the opportunities that arrive these days, and everyone just wants to do something bigger and better than the last. So, you know, these opportunities to travel are coming up, and you've just got to, I think, be putting yourself out there in the right crowd to do it. And you know, social media and Instagram's a great place. That as well, you know, I found that the more I started traveling and shooting, the more opportunities I got. I think maybe because people saw that it's something I did and was capable of doing. Now that sounds a bit weird, because surely anyone's capable of shooting on a beach somewhere, you know, fabulous in the world. But what I mean is like having the trust, you know, having the clients be able to trust that you can go overseas, have all the equipment you need, be able to handle the situations and produce quality content, you know. I think that's sort of a lot into it as well. So the more I sort of traveled, the more the opportunities seem to come, because people have seen that I've done it and they can trust that they're going to get the quality out of it. So I think that on a side note as well, a lot of the travel that I do is often self-funded, or something I would do without necessarily getting paid my full rate or something like that, because the opportunities for me personally to go into some of these places are well worth the value of what I would be paid. So you know, if you get an opportunity to go somewhere new you haven't been and shoot some content, but you're worried about, you know, maybe they're just offering you the expenses covered and not to pay you, you have to think about whether or not that's worth it for you. But for me, a lot of the time it is 100%, because you know, so many of these amazing opportunities you'd never get if you didn't take it. So I've been asked, what's my editing workflow? Now this is another question that would be better for a separate video, so I'll do long story short. Pretty much I get the images from a shoot, I bring them into Lightroom, like you can see behind me here, Adobe Lightroom. I use that primarily. So I bring all the images in, I have a cull through, so I go through and I take out any of the bad images, you know, eye shot or awkward poses, stuff like that that would like never see the light of day. And then depending on the client that I'm working with, I will either export all of the unedited and send to the client as proofs for them to make their selections for their final images, or if it's something like an e-commerce shoot where it's just super simple, I'll actually go through and make the selects myself. And then from there, once I've got the final selects either from me or from the client, I will go ahead and edit those. So I'll do the color toning on them, and then any skin retouching if it's needed, depending on if it's campaign or e-commerce. So I will do the culling, and then the selects, and then color toning and retouching if needed, and then pretty much from there it's just exporting it and sending it to the client. So it can take a bit of time to get through all these steps, but you know, you get it down to pretty solid sort of steps of what you have to do, and it's pretty straightforward, I think. Yeah, so long story short, that's my editing workflow. Okay, next. Hi Bonnie, how do you make the photo shoot packages you offer? Like, what do you have to consider when determining your prices? Another tough question. Pricing is hard, and I definitely don't want to go into talking about numbers on this. But to me, it's kind of a personal thing. I never really have been one of those people who calculates how much time it takes me to do things. Because when I work, I do tend to procrastinate a lot. So things that should take me, you know, 3 hours can take me 8 hours. So I've never really gone on breaking down, you know, the cost of the equipment I have and making sure that's, you know, covered in what I charge. I will go on the value I think I'm worth and the value I think I can ask for and be able to provide, you know, back up with quality content. So yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of people ask me, you know, what they should start charging when they, you know, start out, and it's tough because I kind of want to ask them. It's like, well, you know, what do you think you can back it up with? Like, you know, you could charge $500 an hour if you can provide them with the images, which are, you know, worth $500 an hour. So I think it's very personal to that. you know, very personal to each person as to what they should be charging. And I think it really is just looking at, you know, the value that you're happy with as well and happy to receive, but also that you can back up and basically ensure that you are giving the value for that, because photography is not cheap. For any clients, they'll know, you know, it's definitely not cheap. And all it really goes on is service. You know, a lot of these days, the stuff you provide them is digital as well. Like, there's nothing even solid you're giving them. So really, it's just, you know, like what you feel comfortable with and making sure that you can provide them with the quality content that can back up the price you're asking for. That's what I go for. Okay, next person said, also, this one, shout out to Paul Castle. Anyone who watches this might know who he is. He's a photographer's assistant. I've worked with him many times before. So he's asking, how much do you charge? What settings do you use? Who's your inspiration? And do you do workshops? First up, how much do you charge? Not going to say specifically because that's probably not, you know, let's not get into that. But back to what I was saying before, you know, go on the value that you're comfortable charging. You know, make sure you're happy with it. Make sure it's a price you're happy to get out of bed for and do the work for, and then make sure you can back it up. What settings do you use? It depends. Depends what I am shooting. I tend to favor shooting at a shallow depth of field, so I'll normally be shooting at f2.8 or f1.8, you know, anything on that kind of end of the spectrum that'll give me a nice blurred background. I have been experimenting a bit more lately with getting more depth of field in focus, just because, you know, I've been doing it for such a long time. It's nice to try something different. In the sun, I'll normally have a really high shutter speed to cut out the light. But really, you know, I can't even say what settings I use because it changes, you know, shot to shot really, depending on where you are and what lighting you have to deal with. Who's your inspiration? Well, I don't just have one, but there are many amazing photographers out there right now, especially on Instagram. I do a lot of my inspiration searching and looking on Instagram. There are a lot of amazing photographers, especially these days. You know, kids coming up in the game and they've got, you know, amazing skills and they produce amazing content. And it, you know, freaks me out a little bit because it reminds me that we just have to keep innovating and pushing, you know, to make it in this world. But I can't really, I'm not just gonna list a bunch. Instagram, yeah, just online, the whole world. There's inspiration everywhere. Do you do workshops? Not yet. I haven't done a workshop before. I would like to, but I think I'm a little afraid that no one would sign up to it and come along. Also, I kind of, you know, would have to then sit down and figure out what to teach, and I'm not sure if I'm a good teacher. But I would like to give it a crack one day and just kind of see how it goes. So if you're watching this and you'd be interested in a workshop, please let me know. So this is from a guy on Insta. His name is TM Visuals. I'll put it down here. He wrote to me and it's interesting. He said, here's a question, how to start doing paid work. And I was kind of taken aback by this because he's got good work. You know, you look at his Insta and he shoots good stuff, and you know, everything's looks nice, the colors look nice, it's exposed well, the, you know, composition's good. So I would have thought that he would be you know, a working photographer and making some good money off it. So I was surprised to hear when he said, how do you start doing paid work? So he's from South Africa, and he said that, you know, in Cape Town it's really hard to get sort of paid work like that. And I was taken aback because I know there's such a big industry for shooting swimwear, especially there. So pretty much like the only advice I can say is to how to start to get paid work is to, you know, offer it out there. Oh, like, I'm sorry, I'm just blown away that he's not getting, you know, that there isn't the market for it there, or he's not getting it or something, because I think, you know, he's got talent. Because I guess in the beginning for me it kind of just happened. Like people started inquiring, or I would send out emails to brands and say, here's what I can offer, you know, and then it kind of just snowballed with word of mouth from there. So I think, you know, my advice would be, you know, to email around, you know, get in touch with these brands and tell them about what you do and show them what you can do, and then just sort of like offer them, you know, packages and stuff like that, and it should get the ball rolling. Like if you've got good quality of work, good consistency of work, you're shooting a lot already, you can back up what you've got, you know, like with good, you can show the good quality of what you've got. Like I feel like, you know, brands would be crazy not to offer you paid work. So I'm not sure if that really answered the question, but hopefully, you know, that encourages you to just get out there, I think, to start contacting brands, and really just telling them about what you can do and going from there. Okay, this is from another photographer I know on Instagram, but not in real life. Matt, he is from Sydney as well. He said, what's your ratio of Lightroom to Photoshop editing? Good question. Probably 99% Lightroom and 1% Photoshop. Not really, but I do pretty much everything in Lightroom and then only do skin editing in Photoshop these days. So all of my color toning and everything I do in Lightroom. I used to use Photoshop, but you'd have to do every image individually and it was just really time consuming. So now pretty much what I will do is like batch color tone a whole shoot almost, to the whole sort of look, color vibe, and then I'll go through and tweak them individually depending on what they need. But yeah, so I use Photoshop for skin, and then the rest, everything else, so sorting, culling, cropping, color toning, everything's done in Lightroom. For video, I use Final Cut Pro, in case you were wondering. Hi Bonnie, thanks so much for doing this Q&A. My question to you is, aside from working on building a solid fashion photography portfolio, what were the other steps that helped you book your first few clients, aka creating valuable relationships with existing brands? First few clients that I really got, like kind of when going freelance, luckily were from word of mouth. But I was working for a fashion brand in Brisbane for about 4 years, and while I was working there I was shooting on the side sort of my own stuff and building up my skills there, which I think is a good tip as well. You know, if you're not quite ready to be earning a full-time income from photography, get a job in the industry if you can, or in a related industry like the fashion industry, if you want to be a fashion photographer, and then on your weekends be doing that free work to build up your portfolio so you can get paid work. But yeah, so with this company I worked for, they were quite a big presence online, so I had kind of gotten into the social media realm from them. So my first, I think, like 10,000 followers came from working for that company sort of thing, and I was the photographer for them, so I guess I got known a little bit from that. So yeah, my first clients were kind of, I mean, everyone's really found me through Instagram. It's been my main marketing platform, 100%. So yeah, wait, what was the question that helped you book first? Okay, so pretty much, yeah, I got a lot of inquiries through Instagram, and then just, you know, I've always managed myself. I haven't had an agent as yet, so pretty much whenever I got these inquiries, I would just talk to the people, talk to the clients, you know, build a rapport with them, really ask them what they're looking for. I think that's really valuable, you know, being as professional as you can, you know, being helpful, and then just sort of like, you know, being easy to deal with as well. So yeah, that kind of just helped me get those first few clients. So good word of mouth and being, you know, easy to deal with, I think really goes a long way. But yeah, did that answer the question? I'm not sure, but I'm moving on. Next question from Ellie. Would you ever shoot girls who contact you on Insta? Yes, I do shoot girls sometimes who contact me on Insta. A lot of, in fact, pretty much every model who's an agency model would also be on Instagram, and sometimes they do contact me and ask to shoot. So yeah, that totally happens. Probably more often than going to the agent. Normally I'll talk to them online first. Either one of us will message each other, and then from there I contact their agent and say, hey, we've had a chat, you know, can we shoot? Not always the way to go. If you do want to shoot it with the model that you don't have access to talking to on a personal level, just email their agent and ask, and their agent will let you know. Next, what camera do you use and what camera would you recommend? So the camera I use right now is the EOS 1DX Mark II. And yes, that lens cap is upside down. How embarrassing. That's not working, so I'm going to bring it up by my head. The EOS 1DX Mark II. Sorry, I keep looking down here. I've got a laptop down here which is showing me what I'm looking at. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to see where this is at. I don't know why it's confusing me so much, probably because that's backwards. But anyway, so yeah, current camera I work with is this beautiful beast. I did buy the 5D Mark IV, and then shortly after getting that, I decided that this was the baby for me, because I used to shoot separate video. I used to have the Sony A7S Mark II, and I used to shoot video separate. And then I saw some amazing videos. Actually, the person who convinced me to get this was Matt Joe. So Matt Vanderputte, I don't know. He's from Belgium. I don't know how to say it, but I'll pop his thing down here. He shoots with his camera, and he shoots amazing video content, amazing time lapses. And so I bought this pretty much because I saw the amazing quality video you could shoot with it. Another reason why I bought this for video was because I found it was easier to match the colors with the photos I was taking. With the Sony, I found it hard to match the colors between the Canon and the Sony. And this one, you know, the video that comes in is just like the photos, and it's very easy for me to match them together and have consistency over the whole campaign I'm shooting. That and the 120 frames per second slow motion in 1080p is an absolute dream, and that's mostly what I shoot for video, and it's beautiful. So main camera here, I still have the 5D Mark IV, which I'm filming this on right now. And then before that I was on the 5D Mark III, which was also a fantastic camera. But the 1DX Mark II, I know it's not an achievable camera for everyone because it's insanely expensive and totally unnecessary, to be honest, for a lot. But it's an absolute dream. It's beautiful. The colors that come out of it are beautiful. The images look fantastic, and I absolutely love it. Couldn't talk higher about it. Oh, what camera would you recommend? For someone starting out, if you're going to be going into it professionally, to be making money out of it, then I think you should definitely go for the... I'm a Canon person, by the way. I don't know anything about Nikon, so I cannot recommend anything Nikon. So I would go for the Canon 5D Mark IV or the 5D Mark III if you want to start a little bit lower price point wise. It's a fantastic camera. So I would go for either of those to start. I think though the new, you know, models under that, like the 16 Mark II, which just came out, is also fantastic. So I think you could go for something like that too, for a slightly friendlier price point. On another note, I'm a huge fan of Sony as well, so I know a lot of people are switching over to Sony. So they have some great cameras in the A7S, A7R, all that sort of range. Yeah, fantastic cameras as well, so I would recommend them too. But personally, I found, as a working photographer, I preferred the Canons, and probably always will. Okay, this next question from Kiko Design. Do you use natural light on location? She's got a few questions in here. Do you use natural light on location? Yes, I do. I shoot predominantly natural light. In fact, 99% of the time I will shoot natural light. I am much more comfortable with shooting natural light than shooting with a flash. So everything I do outside pretty much, whether it be swimmer shoots or e-commerce shoots like so on the beach or around a house or location, are all going to be shot natural light pretty much. The exception to that is, you know, when on location in a house or something like that and it's quite dark, and you can't really make it work natural light. I mean, I'll try my best to push my camera as far as I can to achieve what I need, but you can't always. So sometimes I will bring in a flash. I do have some studio lights, but I rarely use them anymore. I do have an on-camera flash as well, which sometimes I can use and bounce it up like into the ceiling to lighten up the room. I don't like to do that, but sometimes you have to. I also think I'm not really, you know, it's some skills that I would like to improve on myself, is getting more familiar with using flash to its full potential. So yes, 99.9% of the time I'm shooting natural light. How many photography assistants do you normally have? Rarely any. Sometimes I will get one. I've never had two, but if I need it, I'll usually get one to either hold a reflector, carry my stuff, or... How long did it take you to be a commercial photographer? You know, it wasn't quick. It took many years of building up and working on the side. I worked in the photography industry for a while. I did weddings, then I went and did real estate, and then I finally got into fashion. And I worked for a fashion brand for 4 years before going freelance from there. So yeah, it actually probably took me about 6 to 7 years before I started earning any kind of like actual money from my own freelance photography. So it's not a quick journey. I mean, it can be in this day and age. You can get lucky and you know, get something out there, meet the right people and just skyrocket. But as a rule of thumb, I think, you know, being consistent and, you know, building up your quality of work, you know, eventually you will get there. If you really want to do it, stick at it, because it's really great once you know, get to where you're going. But it does take time, and it took me a lot of time. So I've been shooting for, yeah, about 7 to 8 years now. So yeah, it's not quick and easy, but it's worth it. Did you have a mentor, or did you spend time as an assistant? I actually really haven't done much assisting work. I think I've done it once or twice. I may have missed out on some grand learning experiences by not really assisting, because I know it is something that, you know, especially in the past, was really done in the industry to get anywhere. But I found that I haven't had to assist, or you know, I mean, I'd like to as long as I could learn something from it. But I feel like, you know, to be honest, a professional photographer wanting an assistant is going to want someone skilled as an assistant, and I'm not that person. And there are many, you know, photography assistants who are doing that as a full-time job out there, and they need that work, and they're way better at that work than me. So, you know, I'm going to let them do it, and I'll just keep on going over here. Also haven't had a mentor. It would be something I would love to get in the future. You know, I just... with mentors, I always feel bad that I'm not giving them value back, but I guess it depends on the mentor as to how open they are with, you know, helping you grow. But I think it would definitely be valuable. Okay, next question. What would you recommend as a good compact option for shooting on your travels? I'm considering going for a full Canon EOS 1D kit, but they are just too big to lug around the world. I totally agree. It's way too big to lug around the world. I would not do that. It's really heavy. This is my 5D Mark III with a tiny Canon pancake lens. This is the 40mm pancake lens. Super cute, super tiny, and takes a great photo as well. I actually love this lens. So when I was around Europe recently, this is what I took with me because it's super light. I attached this little wrist strap here around the side, and then this could actually fit in my handbag as well because it is so tiny on the side. So this one was a great compact option, but you know, I guess because it was my older camera, I didn't necessarily care about protecting it or anything, so I was okay to chuck it around. But you know, it's still small enough if you wanted to have a case. Other than that, Sony does some great compact cameras. If you want a pocket camera, the RX100 Mark 3, 4, 5, that series is great, and I think Canon does some great little compact cameras as well, so I think there's some good options, but Sony or Canon always. I was just curious how your shots are so beautiful in tone and color while shooting in direct sunlight. How do you prevent huge blowouts? My first thoughts were ND filters, but just curious. Okay, so interesting question. I think it's pretty easy to control if you know are pretty familiar with lighting, and you know how you're lighting the model and understanding what it's doing. So I think a time where you would get the extreme highlights and blow it out is maybe if the sun's not either directly on or behind the model. So then you'd have areas of, you know, a huge contrast of like dark shadows to highlights. Then you've kind of got to pick one to expose for, and then you might get blown out highlights. But if you are shooting a model in direct sun and the sun's not too high and, you know, it's on the model sort of directly, it's pretty achievable to get, you know, a nice even look with the light. And then you just have to adjust your settings to make sure you can make the scene dark enough. So when I'm shooting in direct sunlight, you know, it's not uncommon for me to be shooting at 6 to 8 thousandths of a second, you know, and with my ISO all the way down at 100, and then, you know, adjusting my aperture if I need it to go lighter or darker. But so there's plenty of ways to get the scene dark enough. You know, I think it's just important not to blow out the skin when you're shooting it, so you have more flexibility when you're taking it into Lightroom or however you're editing it. But no, I don't use ND filters. I just have the lens on the camera and then just adjust my settings accordingly. I can do some more info on that. Maybe that's a whole nother video at some point to talk about. Okay, last question. What is your favorite lens for shooting swimwear? Do you prefer a wide angle like 35 or something closer like 80 to 100? It is another tough question. It definitely depends on what I'm shooting, the concept of what the client is after or what I'm after, the location. I tend to find longer focal lengths more flattering on the models. Shooting a model super close up with a wide angle lens is not always most flattering because it kind of distorts the image. That being said, it can be really cool if you do it creatively. Another reason why wide angle lenses can be really cool to use is if you've got a really great location and you want to show more of the scene. So this, you'd tend to sort of step away from the model and the scene and show a lot more, so you wouldn't be so close up on them. So that's really cool to add in. I think it's beneficial to, you know, when shooting a campaign or a test, to do both. So, you know, take some closer in shots with a longer focal length. So, you know, anything above 70mm to 100 or even to 200 if you want. And then also accompany it with some further away sort of scene shots to get versatility. I tend to shoot with my 24 to 70 lens, which is this one here, most of the time, because this gives me the ability to go from pretty much ultra wide to a semi telephoto lens. I know a lot of people are very, you know, precious with prime lenses and just using them, but the image quality from that lens is fantastic, and the images that come out of it, you know, it's beautiful. So I don't have any problems with that. And also when you're shooting in the full sun, f2.8 is usually way shallow enough to get a nice blurred background, and then, you know, not have to struggle with adding additional settings or filters to get the scene dark enough. But yeah, so I shoot with that lens a lot. Other than that, I have shot swimwear before with a 100mm macro lens, which is beautiful even when not shooting macro. It's stunning. The 70 to 200 lens I really love as well if you want to be able to get ultra close. But I don't, if I'm shooting a campaign, I would never just have a 35mm and nothing else. I always want to be able to go close as well as be able to go wide. So I'd probably have this lens and then maybe one other sort of prime lens if I wanted to. Yeah, okay. That is the end of my questions. Thank you so much. I think this is going to be a way longer video than I anticipated, so if you made it all the way through, I really appreciate it. Please let me know if you'd like me to do anything like this in the future or more specific videos on other things, just leave a comment down below or message me on Instagram, whatever. But yeah, thank you to everyone who asked me those questions. I hope I answered them and I hope they help, and I hope you like this video. So until next time.